network devices. Now, you first understand what do you mean by networking and internetworking. So, networking means a different devices or different computers are connected together to communicate with each other. We will call it as a network, and this definition we have already seen. Now, different LANs, when you connect it with each other, we will call it as a internetworking. That means a LAN in one college is connected to the LAN in other college or in other premises. We will call it as the internetworking, or in a simple way we will call it as the internet also. So most of the worldwide communication, we are calling it as a internet. That means my computer gets connected with a Google server, and Google server I am able to fetch the information from that one. That's why we will call it as the internet. So we should understand networking means within the LAN, and internetworking means within the different LANs, communication between the different LANs. And for that purpose we require some networking devices that can facilitate the communication between networking and internetworking. So these devices forms the backbone of any network or any internetworking. Without that, there will be a problem in communication. As I said earlier, that if one LAN may be of using a different type of topology, other LAN may be using a different type of topology, and these two LANs now want to communicate with each other. At that time, there should be one device which will overcome this limitation, and this will allow you to communicate with each other. So such kind of devices will taken care, and these devices we call it as a network devices or internetwork devices, and this will form a backbone for any communication. So what are the functions of networking devices? It simply separates the networks, or it can be used for expansion of the networks. So there are in a networking in a sense within a LAN, these devices can be used to separate the network. That means you can divide a LAN into a small segments, and that you can connect it, and if you want to expand it, that for that purpose also these devices are utilized. And remote access is one of the function of the network devices. That means if you want to get connected with other devices which are remotely available, so such as the servers, then in that case the remote servers will be accessed through the devices called modems. Now what do you mean by expanding network? Expanding network means the network cannot be made larger, so you cannot simply add the number of computers in a network. And if you go on adding the number of computers in a network, and more cables and more computers, and the tree structure or star structure or a maze structure topology becomes with large number of computers, then what will happen? The performance of the network get decreased. Then in that case there will be a problem when you talk in terms of bandwidth, when you talk in terms of throughput, latency, delay. So that will create a problem for the network, and your network will be less efficient. So for that purpose these devices will help you to enhance the efficiency of your network. So you can divide the network into smaller segment, and you can connect the segments with the help of these networking devices. So you can install the component, that is the segment, divide the large network into smaller network, and you can connect the different small LANs. Now what are the components required for this? So you'll be requiring the components called as the repeaters, bridges, routers, B routers, then switches or gateways. So these are the devices which are used for this expansion of the network. Now the devices can be classified into two categories. First one is the networking category and the second one is the internetworking category. Networking category we have already discussed. What do you mean by networking category? Networking category means within a network. That means number of computers connected together and they will try to communicate with each other, or small segments are trying to connect to each other. So this is networking. And internetworking means a LAN is communicating with other LAN. A LAN is communicating with other LAN. That means networks are communicating with other networks. It's called as the internetworks. So networking devices are repeaters and bridges. These are the networking devices. And internetworking devices are routers and gateways. So you can easily classify the devices on the basis of networking and internetworking. So for what purpose you will be using it, depending on that, the devices will be classified as the networking devices and internetworking devices. So this is how the repeater works, repeaters and hubs. So hubs are mostly we'll call it as a passive hubs. So what is the function of repeater? So repeaters are the hubs that are the operating at physical layer, and it regenerates the network signals and sends them to the other segments. So when we see that at physical layer, the data is in the form of ones and zeros, right? So data is in the form of ones and zeros. So this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, this is 0, 0, 1, 1, and like that. So when you are transmitting this data over the physical link, at that time we know that when the signal is transmitted through the transmission media, it gets attenuated. The signal strength gets weakened, that is attenuation. So we need to enhance its capability. We need to enhance the signal once again. So these digital signals are passed through these repeaters, and these repeaters will enhance the capability, and it will send to the signal, and this signal is broadcasted and it is sent to all the connected devices. I am saying it is a broadcasted. Okay, this is very important. That means a signal is received at this end, the signal is received at this end, and the signal gets enhanced and it is broadcasted to all these devices, or to devices connected to these ports. So this is how you can see that. You can see that the signal over here is something weakened signal, and here it is the regenerated signal, and regenerated signal is the enhanced signal, so that there will not be any problem in identifying the ones and zeros. So the repeater performs this task. So the primitive hub can be viewed as a multi-port repeater. So it simply regenerates the data and broadcasts them to all the ports. So what are the limitations and what are the functions of these repeaters? Let us try to understand. A repeater and a hub extends a network beyond the physical boundaries imposed by the data transmission. So we know that every Ethernet, or whenever you are using any networking criteria, they have their own limitations because of transmission media. So a cable may go up to 300 meters, may go up to certain meters, and thereafter there is a problem. So at that time, such kind of repeaters and hubs will come to your rescue, and they will help you to expand the your network or extend your network. So repeater simply repeats the bit of patterns of a signal. It simply repeats the pattern of the signal. That means this repeater will simply repeats your digital signal. So what is the difference between repeater and amplifier? This is not an amplifier. This is a repeater. It simply enhances the signal. If it is one is identified, it finds the identifier. If it is identified as a 0, it simply puts the limitation to 0. So many times the electromagnetic interference will also get added to the signals. So these signals will be identified as a 1 or 0, and these signals are again repeated in the format of ones and zeros. The signals are not amplified. So amplifier is used for analog signals, and these repeaters are used for these digital signals. That's why I said it simply repeats the bit pattern of the signal. So what are the limitations and the features of the hubs? So red, you can read it as a limitation. So it cannot link unlike segments. Unlike segments means the different segments are having different topologies or different technologies. It cannot link together. So that is the limitation. So if one segment is using some different techniques and other topology is using different technique, so it cannot link it together. It cannot join the segments with the different access methods. So that is again, we have already discussed this in the upper one. Then it do not isolate the filter, do not isolate and filter the packets. It is not isolating the different networks, and it cannot filter the packets because it is simply repeating the signal. But it can connect to the different types of media. That means you might be using wired communication. In wired communication, we have seen the different types of wire, coaxial cable or cat type of cable. So such kind of media can be connected to this one, and you can connect such kind of devices to these repeaters or hubs. So it is the most economic way of expanding your network. So these are the features of these repeaters and hubs, and the limitation is that when the two different access methods or technology comes together, it is unable to isolate or filter the segments or packets, as well as it cannot link the two different technologies. That is what the problem with the repeaters. So actually repeater and the hub, there are certain differences. What is a hub? Hub is a physical layer networking device which is used to connect the multiple devices in the network. So that is what the difference is. Repeater is not able to connect it, but the hub is able to connect the multiple devices in the network, and they are used to connect the computers in a LAN. A hub has a many port in it. Then computer which intend to connect it to the network is plugged in one of the port. When the data frame arrives at a port, it is broadcasted to every other port except from where it has sent. Okay, without considering what is the destination. So this is what the difference between other devices and hubs and repeaters. They are simply broadcasting the signal. That means every repeater will get every port will get the same information, and it will check for whatever may be the whether the information is for that device or not. So a hub is there. So this is how a hub is there, and to this hub the different devices are connected, and this device may be a sender, this device may be a repeater, this may be a printer, and like that. So same type of devices can be connected to this one, and you will get a signal to this. Now there are different types of hubs are available. There are different types of hubs are available. So first one is the active hub. So these active hubs are having their own power supply. These active hubs are having their own active power supply, and they have a facility of cleaning, boosting and relaying the signal. That means it will clean the signal. That means whatever may be the noise is there, that noise is filtered out, the signal is boosted and it is relayed. So this is what the facility available with the active hub. That means it has its own power supply, it cleans the signal, it boosts the signals and it relays the signal. The second is a passive hub. So passive hub, it doesn't have its own power supply, so it takes the power supply from the active hub, and it simply sends the signal, it simply relays the signal. You can see that it simply relays the signal without cleaning and boosting, so this is why, that's why it is called as a passive hub. It cannot do it on its own. It simply do a task of a mediator. It simply takes and simply forward it to the next one. That's why it is called as a passive hub. And the third one is a intelligent hub. So intelligent hub has a remote management capability. It is just like an active hub with having certain additional features of remote management, so that it can provide a flexible data rates to the networking devices. It can administer the monitoring of the traffic passing through the hub and configure each port of the hub. So these are the facilities available with this intelligent hub. So it will monitor the traffic and it will configure each port in the hub. So this is how we can differentiate between the three hubs. Now the next device is a bridge. So it is an enhanced version of the repeater or a hub. So what it does, so bridge operates at a data link layer, whereas the repeater and hubs operates at a physical layer. Bridge operates at data link layer. So whatever maybe the MAC addresses are there, so at MAC level it operates. So bridge is a repeater with additional function of filtering the content by reading the MAC addresses of source and destination. So repeater and hubs, they are not taking care, they are simply relaying the signal, they simply broadcasting the signal. Here it will read the source address and destination address and send the frame to the desired device or to the desired segment only. It will not broadcast the signal. So it is used to interconnecting the two LANs working on the same protocol. So it has a single input and single output, thus it is a two-port device. So bridge is a two-port device. So bridge is more intelligent than repeater. It sends the data frame only to the concerned segment, that thus preventing the excess traffic. That means if a network is there, now let us consider that. I will draw the diagram like this. So these are the devices connected to one LAN or segment A, B, and this is connected to one segment. Okay, so I'll call it as a S1, segment 1. Then this is having information for C. I'll draw it as a packet. This is having for information as a C, and C and D are connected to other segment of LAN. Connected to other segment of LAN. So you can consider this one as a one department. Now let us consider this is one department D1, where A and B are connected. This is the department D2, where C and D are connected, but D1 and D2 are the part of same LAN, but a small network has been formed. So here it is the bridge which is connected to this device and this device. So whenever this will come to this bridge, it will try to identify whether if instead of bridge repeater will be there, what will repeater will do? Repeater will send the information to this one also and to this one also, and if n number of devices are there or 10 to 15 devices are there, so the information is broadcasted to all the devices. But when this data is only is only intended for C, device C, then in that case bridge In that case, bridge will simply identify that this information is for C and it will simply relay the information to C. It will not relay the information to D and other devices on the second segment. So this is what the bridge will do. So it is, that's why it is called as a it is intelligent than the repeater. So it will avoid the excess traffic on the network. So you can see that here it is one device which is connected to LAN 1 and here it is the other device which is connected to LAN 2, and the MAC addresses are identified, and the bridge will try to communicate between these two MAC addresses, and the data will be sent to the concerned LAN only. So what are the differences between the bridge and repeaters? So you can see on the basis of OSI layer, the repeater, you can say that the repeaters are connected to the physical layer and bridge is connected to data link layer, and as far as the data generation is required, repeater will regenerate the signal and it will also regenerate the signal, but in the packet level, at the packet level, and it will regenerate the signal at signal level. That means it is at physical level, and it is at packet level it will regenerate the signal. So this is what the difference is. Whether the repeater will help you to reduce the network traffic? No. Bridge will reduce? Yes. So these are the three basic differences we can do it. On the basis of intelligence, you can also say that the repeater is not intelligent, it is a simply device. Then bridge is the intelligent device. Then you can talk about on the basis of broadcasting or relaying the signal. Repeaters broadcast, bridge will not broadcast, it will simply keep the destination into mind. So that's why this is what, or there are more identifications. So on the basis of this MAC address, source address and destination address, it is reading. So that also you can mention it as a one of the difference between the bridge and the repeaters. So we'll stop here.